great, thank you. All right, we're gonna start this meeting at 6:01. Thank you for coming. Additions and deletions to the agenda.
The lunch conversation has to go somewhere. I don't think that's there.
All right, so we need to add the lunch
Or food,
conversation,
I guess.
the food conversation, so we could add it to old business. We'll just make it after Friends of Windham, or do you want to do it sooner?
Nope, that's fine.
Okay. So G, food. I think I was calling it food future. Okay, any other additions and deletions?
I have a question, Beth.
Sure.
Who else is in the room with you besides Mickey and yourself and the Brattleboro, the BC TV guy?
Aaron Kehoe is here. Crystal Corvu. And Bridget Corby.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, correspondence. I haven't had any. Okay, hearing no other correspondence, members of the public.
So I just wanted to touch base on what I had emailed the board and Mickey about seeing what it would cost to tint the windows, so that the people in the school can see out, but anybody outside the building cannot see in.
Okay.
I just think with the recent school shooting, and I've come to Mickey a couple times after school shootings, I just, I think it's just an extra layer of protection, and I don't think it would happen here, but I'm sure all those schools said that will never happen at our school.
Of course.
And I think, we have a lot of windows on the back of this school, and if something were to happen, it might give the people inside a few more minutes to get out.
Yep.
Okay.
So I would really like to look into it.
Okay.
You can do a tint, so you don't have to put in all new windows.
Okay.
There's like an adhesive, I
It's like a
believe.
sticker, right? That you can put over the top.
Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, and you'll hear in my principal's report, I just met with Mark Moody about all the safety in the school, and he's going to give us a report, and he was talking about some other kind of film as well that you could put on the window, which helps it from, shattering easily and stuff. So I don't know if there's like a combined version of that where we can get the shatter and the tint, but either way, I would assume, Bill, is there going to be some kind of funds available statewide, do you know, for this kind of stuff?
We'll have to wait and see, but I think the first step is exactly what you've done, where Greg has arranged for you to get an audit of your building for safety purposes.
Yeah.
Once you get that audit back, then I think you'll have to make some considerations, but yeah, I'm not sure about the money.
Okay, thanks.
Great. No, that's great.
But overall, I mean, from a safety standpoint, I think we probably did well,
Yes.
correct?
Absolutely. He was very impressed with the way our doors are secured and locked and the number of cameras and the doorbell and the fact that we can see who's at the door. And we've talked with the kids extensively that they're not even to go to the door anymore to open it for anybody. So he seemed pretty confident that we were doing well,
Great.
which was nice.
And I think that, I'm glad you brought that up because, I come here and it's the sweetest thing to have somebody, a student want to come up and open the door for you. And it was heartbreaking for me to say, no, you can't come to the door and see that crestfallen little face. But I think that's something that
And we've got to work with them on it because they're not used to that.
Yeah, no, and it's, as the adults, we need to just be, just unfortunately gently remind them, I'm sorry, you can't do the sweetest thing for opening the door for me, which is just really, just sucks. Yeah, it's really sad, for sure. Okay, great, thanks, Crystal. Anybody else, members of the public? No? Okay. Great, new business, WCSU JEDI. Is that Bill? or is that you?
I don't know. Bill, do you want to speak to the JEDI, or am I supposed to read this statement?
That statement was provided to the WCSU board and shared at the last WCSU board meeting. And the WCSU board asked each board to take it back to their individual board meetings just to get a flavor of how the individual boards felt about the WCSU board adopting this statement. So the reason this is on the agenda tonight is A, it was requested by the WCSU board, and B, the hope is that Russ and Beth would have the ability to understand what the board feels about this when they meet tomorrow night to discuss adopting this statement.
Okay.
Yes. Should I read it out loud so everyone can hear it?
Sure, yeah.
Here is the statement. The Windham Central Supervisory Union is committed to initiating and supporting policies, practices, and curriculum that promote social justice, diversity, and inclusion. In celebration of our collective rich diversity, we also seek to affirm and elevate historically marginalized identities and experiences. We are dedicated to our belief that biased actions and hateful speech have no place in our learning community. Our commitment to social justice and educational equity will be reflected in our daily operations, including recruitment, admission, student and staff retention, responsibility for modeling and reinforcing upstander behavior, school and family support, hiring practices, curriculum, and respectful dialogue.
Nice. Okay, so Russ, you have a copy of this?
Yes, I have a copy of it and I agree with it. So I would recommend that we adopt it.
Great. Do we want, is that our possible action, Bill? We can do that right now. Is Abby not here?
It's two separate things. One is, do you, as representatives of the Windham School District, when you are in your position as Windham Central Supervisory Union board members, do you support the WCSU adopting this statement? That's one. And then the second one would be, you have the option as a board to adopt it for the Windham School District yourself. So it's two separate things. One, do you support WCSU adopting it? And then two, do you want the Windham School District to adopt it?
And so can we make a motion on both of those right now?
Can I ask a
Yes.
question?
Oh, sure, sorry. Yeah,
Where,
go ahead.
I'm not disagreeing with this, I just want to know, I guess, some more background on this and where did this come from?
Bill, can you explain where this comes from?
Sure. 30 months ago, 2.5 years ago, the leadership team, which comprises all the principals and the central office directors, met and decided that it was important for all of our staff to get a basis in bias training. And so we did universal bias training for all of our staff across the WCSU 2 years ago. Out of that training, it led to the creation of a justice, equity, diversity, and inclusion team, which has been meeting for the past year on a monthly basis. It is facilitated by the Collaborative for Education out of Massachusetts. And that group, which has students, staff, administrators, and board members on that, came up with this statement to bring to the WCSU board as a statement of support for exactly what it says. And actually, it's a really good question, Aaron, because if this is adopted by the WCSU board, then they will be spending the next year figuring out how to operationalize what this means. So will we be promoting policies and procedures in hiring practices? Will there be areas of instituting restorative justice across WCSU? So this is kind of seen as a first idea of a statement of support, and then spending time operationalizing how that would look, because we don't know exactly how that would look and how it would look in each school. So really right now it's at the statements place, and every quarter the Justice, Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion team produces an update and a report on that work. And it's kind of an evolving, slow-moving process just to make sure that we are participating in the evolution of how the world is working now.
Thank you, Bill.
Okay, so do we want to adopt this for the WCSU? I would.
I would vote in the affirmative for both motions.
Okay, so we have a motion to approve both, one for supporting the WCSU reps and then one for us as a board. I'll second it. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Does that work for you, Peter?
Oh, find my button. Yes, works for me.
Okay.
That was one motion, right, or is it both?
We made it for both, one to support the WCSU reps and then one to support it as a Windham Elementary School board.
Great, got it, thanks.
Is that good? Two for one. Okay, great. On to old business. Approve the minutes from May 13th and May 17th. I looked them over. I don't have anything to add or take away. They look very, yeah.
I would make a motion to approve both of the minutes from both of those previous meetings.
Okay, I'll second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Great, thank you, Peter. So May 13th and May 17th are approved. Thank you for your work. They were very detailed, was the word I was looking for.
Thank you. They will be posted shortly.
Thank you. All right, next is principal's report.
All right, that's me. Evening, everyone. Thanks for being here. Report cards are completed, actually, and will be sent home on Wednesday or Thursday. Reminder to parents, if you see 3s on the report card, that's a good thing. Very rarely will you see many 4s on the report cards. That means the student is almost at the point of being able to teach the material. Some students will receive a few 4s in various areas, but many students may not have any 4s on their report card, and that is okay. Contrary to that, if you are seeing a great deal of 1s and 2s on the report card, you should hopefully already be aware of those areas. If not, please reach out to your child's teacher to touch base about any areas they may have received a 1 in that you were not prepared for. Nurse Abby Welch was here Friday, June 3rd to check all the students' vision and hearing. She said she would reach out to anyone who had any issues, but it's my understanding there were not any to be reported. On Thursday night, June 2nd, we had our first spring concert in 2 years. The students sang beautifully, represented themselves in the school very well, and even played a couple of instruments. I can personally vouch for the huge improvement of the recorders. It's very exciting for me to introduce Natalie Beckstrom as our new K-2 classroom teacher for next school year. Natalie is fresh out of college with a degree in elementary education and comes from a K-2 classroom that's very similar to the one she will be taking over. She's just completed her move to Brookline, Vermont, and is expected to be around this summer, maybe at farm camp and the week of summer school here. I just spoke with her a few minutes before this meeting, and she's planning to stop in tomorrow to meet the staff and maybe say hello to some of the students. So that's super exciting. In addition to Natalie, we're also very excited to have hired Bridget Corby as the new part-time administrative assistant for next year. Bridget will be invested in the school for a long time with her 2 young children and has all the skills we were looking for and someone to excel in this position. Welcome, Bridget. In addition to Bridget and Natalie, I have been in conversation with Casey Bailey, the art teacher at Floodbrook School, who is leaving there, about coming back to Windham School to teach art next year. She previously taught here, is a certified art teacher, and wants to come back next fall to work with our students 1 or 2 afternoons or mornings a week. I'm super excited by this prospect, and maybe we will get a certified art teacher back in the school.
Great.
Field Day took place on Tuesday, June 7th for all the students with Miss West. There was a tug of war, beach ball activities, and plenty of water-related games to get the kids drenched on a hot and sunny afternoon. Some quotes from the participants afterwards were, "That was the funnest day ever. Everyone did so excellent. We all deserve extra free time for how well we did today." And finally, "the least complaining ever," and that came from Miss West. On Thursday, June 9th, Greg Frost was supposed to be here in the building with Mark Moody from Visbit, who is a state school safety committee, to do an audit of our school. Unfortunately, Greg had an emergency, so it was just Mark and Mr. PJ. Mark spent about an hour speaking with Mr. PJ about safety procedures, locking mechanisms, cameras, alarms, safety drills, the doorbell, and anything else related to the safety of our students when they are at school. Mark will take all this information and use it to prepare a report specific to our school about how best to keep our school and students safe. The Kindness Campaign came to the school one final time this year on Friday, June 10th to do some more tie-dyeing and art with the students. There were towels to be dyed and white cloth bags to be decorated. Thank you to everyone who participated in the Kindness Campaign this year, and hopefully it will continue throughout next year. Hopefully, I'm guessing maybe they'll have their towels for
Last day of school.
Thursday.
The bag they'll get from the parent group and the kindness campaign and donors in town. They're going home with a gift bag. So that's the
super.
bag, the towel.
So they will get
couple
those
things
on
from the summer.
Thursday.
Yep.
Killer. Thank you. Hopefully it will continue next year. Work on replacing the boiler will begin in the coming days, weeks. The plan, hope, is that it will be long finished by the time school starts this fall. Greg, that's all up to you, buddy. Thanks again to Greg Frost for getting this all set up and finalized. And luckily, actually, Greg, you had mentioned it's starting early. It's really good that it didn't because the heat was cranking this morning and we would have been freezing in here if we couldn't do it. So that's it for me. Thank you.
Any questions for the principal? And yeah, thank you, Greg, very much.
The art teacher,
Yes.
that's not the old.
Mr. PJ,
Yes,
Mr. PJ, you also have a volunteer group meeting tomorrow in the afternoon about replacing your multi-purpose room floor.
that's right. And that's at 4 o'clock?
Yep.
All right.
And I spoke with Alliance today and they were going to start before the fiscal year, but we were pushed it. We pushed it to like the second week of July. So we do have a much closer date. The last time we spoke, they were still waiting on some parts. Everything is in. They're just buttoning up some of the stuff with some of the ARPA money that came through with some of the other projects. And so rather than deal with having it kind of potentially overlap a fiscal year, I just said, well, if we've got to remake the PO, do it the first or second week of July. It'll just be easier. So that's where we're at with that.
Sounds good. Thank you. And as far as that art teacher, she was here before I was here.
Yeah, I don't recognize the name.
So it's a long time ago.
Yeah.
Okay,
No, it's not who
okay.
maybe wondering
Yeah.
about.
I'm like, oh
Yeah,
boy,
yeah.
is this a good thing?
Yeah. Okay, any other questions for the principal? Okay, hearing none. Superintendent report.
Sure, I'll be brief. We're rocking and rolling. I provided a written report to the board for June. I would just highlight that everybody is exhausted. They're super excited to go home for July. All the teachers, the parents, the students have done an extraordinary job making it through this year. It started out with such anticipation of typical school. It evolved into something that was very atypical, and the strength and resilience of our adults that work in our school system, especially in the intimate environment of Windham, along with the parents being so flexible, supportive, and always seeking inspiration from the joy that the students bring each day. And we made it through the year, but I think people need a break. And I think people are very excited to say goodbye in a happy, happy way and have an old-fashioned Vermont summer. So that, I'm hoping that for everybody.
Thank you, Bill. Any questions for the superintendent? Okay, hearing none. Crystal Corvu, WRED update.
This looks long, it's not, I just write super duper big. So on June 6th, we had our long-term planning board meeting for grades K through 6 and 7 through 12. I was on the committee that presented for grades 7 through 12. We presented existing course options, potential expanded opportunities, impacts of high school choice. Both presentation formats can be found on the WRED website. and viewed on the BCTV website. I also posted the recording on the Windham, Vermont page. On June 8th, we had our regular board meeting. Greg Frost gave an update on projects he and his team have completed and plan to complete over the summer break. They have done a superb job updating our schools and being master negotiators. Tammy Clausen gave great presentation on our athletics and how many kids are participating. Almost 60% of our kids are in co-curriculars. My absolute favorite presentation, though, was given by Terry Davison Berger. This was a presentation on flexible pathways for our students. It was great to hear how every student leaving Leland and Gray is helped to have a plan for success after graduation. I posted the recording on the Windham page, but you can also find it on the BCTV page. I encourage anyone who will have a student going to Leland and Gray or already there to watch it. Graduation was June 11th and a gorgeous day. I thought this class had Secret Service protection, but it was just Bill in a suit and sunglasses. I see how he had his previous job. Ask him, because his secret is safe with me. It was quite incredible to have it announced where each student was going after graduation.
Nice. That's great. Thank you. Any questions for Crystal Corby?
Thank Crystal for the compliment. Thank you, Crystal.
Thank you. It's nice to get that update about, Leland Gray and where the kids are going from elementary school. So that's really nice.
Russ has a question.
Sure.
Bill had sent out the agenda and the minutes and a lot of the other things prior to this meeting, and included in it was the West River Education District newsletter talking about how enrollment has declined by 15%, how expenses have increased by 12% and revenues have decreased by 45%, and the per pupil cost is increased by 45% or $7,455 over what appears to be a 5-year period of time. And I'm wondering if Bill could speak to this trend as to whether it is just symptomatic of our school district, or is it symptomatic of all school districts in Vermont? And what is the likelihood that the trend that is obviously appearing will reverse itself or flatten out?
No, I'm happy to. And thanks for pointing that out. I think that newsletter that is produced by Suzanne Pa for the West River Board is really concise and informative. So I guess, Russ, the first answer is that it is a general trend across Vermont that a majority of school districts are in declining enrollment. So that is a trend that I do not foresee changing. Just an example is that the average class size in the West River School District declines from about 36 to 27 when you look at from 12th grade all the way down to kindergarten. So that is a cumulative effect of 9 students a year over time. That contributes to the loss of revenue because when you have less students, you receive less revenue. Also, you have less revenue because you have less students that are attending Leland and Gray that are paying tuition. That happens because there are less students that have the ability to attend Leland and Gray because the students that have choice are also less students. So I do not see that trend continuing. I think that's why Crystal's report is so important, because the West River Board is being extremely proactive about the reality of the situation, running 4 buildings, running 3 elementary schools and 1 middle high school, in a declining enrollment environment causes upward pressure on both the tax rate and the cost per student. And as long as that continues, that creates conflict with the taxpayers that are paying for those services. So I applaud the West River Board for facing that challenge head on. They're going to have some really hard choices to make in the next 4 to 6 months, but they're not shying away from that challenge. I think what you'll see is that the West River Board will be making some decisions in October of this year about structural placement of students, and that will affect what the next 4 to 5 years looks like. And then more than likely, you're going to have to make another decision probably 4 to 7 years out after you see how that initial decision plays out. But in general, yes, most Vermont school districts are seeing declining enrollment, which puts upward pressure on the tax rate and challenges for operations.
Thank you, Bill.
You bet.
Abby,
Yes, thank you. And thank you so much, Crystal, for keeping us all updated. You are doing an amazing job. And I guess to kind of comment and hope that it is, I'll do my best to be more involved as well. But it's fair to say with trends, if you look at the fact that we've had a pandemic for a couple years and a lot of families were home, that trend could potentially uptick with quite a boom of population of kids that were conceived during the pandemic. So I do worry with a lot of aggressive changes that if we have a change in population that suddenly becomes large again, that we've made choices that are prepared for that as well. So thank you very much.
great. Thank you, Abby. Anybody else for the superintendent? Okay, hearing none.
Bill, I was hoping maybe you could talk a little bit about S100 and how that will impact the school.
We actually, Abby, we added that. That's going to be G, and we're very close to that. So can we? That's the food program.
Oh, I must be looking at. I never got. I only have the draft.
We just added it when we made additions and deletions. So we only added it this evening.
Right on. Okay, I will be patient. Thank you so much.
And we can skip E. I'm sorry, but I had something that I had to attend, and I left my folder at work. I'm pretty sure it was just payroll. So, but if we can just wait till the next meeting, there was nothing out of the ordinary. But if we can just hold off until whenever we decide our next meeting is. Anybody else about financials? Russ, I know you had some questions. I don't know if you got those answers from the treasurer.
I got the answers to the treasurer, and I think we need to sharpen up our reporting of what we are approving and not approving, because we're getting behind on approving our pay orders.
I think we're pretty caught up. We approved through 35, and I'm pretty sure there's only a couple others that came in.
Well, there's one that we should probably move to approve, which is pay the attorney's fees, because we got an explanation from Lori. And you said in your correspondence earlier that bill had been pulled and not paid.
That's the direction I was given by the treasurer, because that bill had not been itemized, and the treasurer wanted to make sure that the taxpayers knew what they were paying. My understanding, it came in just as a solid lump sum of, I think, like $5,000, and the treasurer wanted to see it broken down. So that's fine. If you're happy with the way that turned out, then I'm happy to approve that.
The bill was around $1,100 or $1,300 or something, and it was the attorney's charges for defending the WCSU from the lawsuit that was initiated.
Oh, I don't know where I got that.
If I understand the email that I got from Lori correctly.
Okay.
Close. It's defending the Windham School District from
Windham
lawsuit.
School District.
Okay, if you're satisfied with that, then that's fine. I'll make a motion to approve that.
I'll second it.
Great. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Can you tell me the amount of that again?
Aye.
Thank you. Could you just tell me the amount of that,
I don't have that email directly in front of me, but it was $1,312.50 according to the minutes that Peter typed from the May 17th meeting.
okay,
$1,312.50.
okay, great. Thank you. Next is Friends of Windham, Abby.
Yeah, so FWS has had a lot of correspondence going on regarding interest in getting a subscription for Grant Watch. There'll be another meeting coming up next week that we'll probably make some choices as to what's going to happen and how that's going to look. But there's seemingly a lot of community members that are expressing interest in finding grants that could support our community and the school. So that's a really wonderful thing. So if people are interested in learning more about that and working with FWS, the meeting is, I want to say Tuesday next week at 6. So you can always reach out to the website or email if you have any questions. Does anybody have any questions regarding that?
I do. I'm wondering if you have an employer identification number.
Yes, we do.
Can you share that with us? And we'd
And
also
why
like
would
to
that-
see a copy of the bylaws and the mission statement if you filed for a 501c3. We'd also like
Okay.
to see a list of the officers
So you
and
can go
directors.
online and that can be obtained online.
Well, I've been online and I can't find it. I've been to both the IRS, the Internal Revenue Service in the state of Vermont, and I can find nothing that supports what you're saying.
Oh, okay. Well, that's unfortunate, but I can find it. Others have been able to find it.
if
If
you
you would
can
like,
send me
we
copies,
could
I
figure
would
something out because
appreciate
that's the separate issue from the school board. So if you would like to reach out to the organization itself and get that information, you can. You can definitely donate over $250 and you get the EIN on your IRS receipt. So just to throw that out there, I know you've been really anxious to donate. So there you go. Thank you so much for your interest. We really appreciate it.
Okay, Abby, I don't need that information. I think as you stated, that's not a school board area. So I would be interested though, just when you do figure out who to send money to for the grant writing, the subscription, which I think would be a really great idea, because I think we might have a grant writer interested in the room. And there's somebody else I've reached out to too who's done grant writing in the past, Mary McCoy, who is not, doesn't feel like she can take it on, but she would be happy to help in any way with information, so.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mary.
Great, any other questions for Friends of Windham through Abby Pelton? Okay, hearing none. Now, on to Food Future. There's been a lot of discussion about this, a tremendous amount, which is amazing. Everybody's involved, but I'm gonna turn this over to Mr. PJ.
Okay, Bill, do you want to explain where this came from and what it says?
Soft.
Don't.
What was that?
He froze.
Oh.
He froze.
He froze.
Okay, well, I will sum it up until we get back from Bill. The state of Vermont has decided to do a 1-year, I don't know what to call it, referendum on the food service in the state of Vermont, and they're saying that all schools are now required to provide free breakfast and free lunch for all the students.
He passed it to me and I was filling in everybody.
Oh, great. Thank you, Lori.
Okay. So, I don't know how much you heard, but the state reached out to us to ask about Windham's program next year. We told them that Windham had not made any decisions. And then we heard from the Child Nutrition Programs Coordinator, Jamie Curley, who said, well, they don't have an option because in the law, the S-100, which is Act 151, they have taken away the exemption rights that you've had before. So every year, Windham historically votes to be exempt from the child nutrition program. So that being said, we are trying to figure out what that means for Windham. Right now, we can tell you that you need to be part of the child nutrition program, not just serve food and pay for it. So the whole premise behind S100 is that every child is going to eat for free. There is a complication that I learned today. So I'm really awaiting information from the director, Rosie Kruger, who's putting together an email of how exactly this is going to work. Because the complication is that the state reimburse only if you are a provision 2. So West River, for example, is provision 2. So all the students already eat for free, and the taxpayers pick up the difference between what the feds and state pay. So it's a little bit complicated at this point, to be honest. What we do know is that you need to run a program. What we also know is it needs to be it needs to be in the child nutrition program, because they're looking for those counts and they're looking for the participation. What we don't know is how it will exactly work. We know your kitchen is not set up to create the meals there. And we had shared some information, oh gosh, back, how long ago was it, Greg? We shared some information, which I can send out to the board again, about the food being prepared at Leland and Gray, and what it would cost. And, it was a substantial cost. The only real difference is that the full paid lunches and breakfasts where children did not qualify for free or reduced was being paid by the parents. In this case, that would not happen if you were a provision 2 program. I know it's very complicated. So the rough numbers was going to cost the district between $6,000 and $10,000 just to run the program for the food, not including anything with the kitchen, right? So I think Greg put together a list of what the kitchen would need to be able to serve the food that came from West River. And that was roughly around $12,000 to $15,000 to get that going. There is grant money out there for equipment that we can apply for. The food equipment grants are open up right now. In fact, that is another thing that prompted Jamie to reach out and ask, is Windham going to use this equipment grant? So where it stands right now is that I'm awaiting more information to be able to tell Windham school board what it will actually cost and what are the steps to get there. The quickest way that I know to be able to serve food at Windham is through West River, right? I mean, that is the easiest, quickest way at this point to comply with the law. What does that look like, and what will it cost the district? Because there still will be a cost to the district, because West River is going to have to hire additional staff to serve the meals and to drive them up there. So there will be some outlay that will not be covered by the federal or state reimbursement. So I know that doesn't answer a lot of your questions, but if you have questions, let's get them out on the table so that I can start asking my contacts as well.
Sure, go ahead. Bridget has a question.
Is there any leeway, anyone that we could contact to push back a little bit and get a little more time to put this together. It just seems like where we've talked about a food program and how expensive it is, it's a really big undertaking all of a sudden, and so it's a huge benefit to have kids have free food, but I think if it's like hastily thrown together and not done well, we're doing it to follow the rules, but I don't actually think it would translate into a huge benefit to the kids unless it's done well. I think there are options to do it well, and I just feel like with all of these, every time something comes up for Windham, we're just kind of in this like funny situation where it's just not helpful. And so I kept, when I found out about this, it reminded me of I use the example of the American Disabilities Act. Not the same thing, but just as an analogy, if you, under the Disabilities Act, you have to make reasonable accommodations. So we're a little school and this is a huge cost. Is the cost really a benefit or a hurt to our school? And I guess where I'm going with this is originally the bill was proposed for long-term free meals, and they're only offering free meals for 1 year. Are we really going to put all of this money in for 1 year of free meals? And I understand that we have to, but who can we kind of give that pushback to ask for more time? Because I think that if the following year, if we're not offering free meals and we go back to that $10 a day, I think it was $10 a day per kid when parents had to pay for it, that's a lot of money for food driven up from Leland and Gray. So I get that we have to do it, but is there anyone that we could debate this with or argue with and say, there's not enough time? Can we have some sort of a workaround to have more time to apply for grants, to bring people in, to do it the right way?
That's a great question. Can I go ahead and answer that, Beth? Or?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. And I don't really have an answer for you other than to say, I don't know that you can push back, and say either we don't want to do this because it's only a year, which I understand. It really puts Windham in a predicament here. However, I do think there can be workarounds, and that's what I'm trying to. First of all, I'm waiting for this email that is supposed to lay out the program. And at that point, then I can review that and start talking to the director to see what are the workarounds, where can what is the flexibility in this? And until that happens, I can't really move forward.
Okay. That's a really good, that's what you brought up, because quite frankly, why wasn't this brought up? We should be able to prepare for this for our next budget in December. To throw it out now, we've already done our budget, seems to me really kind of half-assed as far as I'm concerned. I did try to put a call into Carolyn today, just with her connections in Montpelier, but I don't see how this is coming to us now at the very end of the school year to be ready for late August. So I'm completely, I agree that I'm not looking to push back or make anybody mad, but at the same time, this is incredibly unfair to throw this at us right now. So I hope that the WCSU, you, Bill, will make that known that this is a lot to ask our little school when we have our budget developed. And our next budget's not coming until the fall. So I'm thank you very much for saying that.
So
go ahead,
I have
Erin.
a question, and it might go with Lori and Greg and you guys. And I was thinking about this, and it's exactly what Bridget was like, a reasonable accommodations. And I went through all of the articles and everything that I could find on the S100, and I've read through them, and I guess because we have limitations with the building and the equipment and the power, that's the first thing that I see, and I don't know if it's even viable, but with a staff member driving up from Leland and Gray that we need to pay to drive up food that may get cold, and we have no warming stuff, so that's always an extra added cost. And it was something that came through this morning for me. What if we rented a food prep trailer or a food truck or something like that? I'm just trying to think outside of the box.
Cool.
So it's where you can, prep the food and store the food and have proper refrigeration, and it's already,
That's a good idea.
certified by the Board of Health. And sometimes they don't even need to be certified, but because it's a school thing, I bet it would need to be certified. But I think that's a way to look outside of the box there, and there might be something available, and who knows. I did have another question for Lori, and I guess she mentioned that the state reached out about Windham. I guess my question is, why did they reach out about Windham? Was it just because of the exemptions that are filed every year? Okay.
That's right. Yes. And, Windham is really in the minority, right? I mean, most public schools and independent schools offer, breakfast and lunch through the child nutrition program. So I'm sure they reached out to every small school that, applies for an exemption because they, want to alert.
Yeah.
But they're reaching out now in June we all just heard Bill say, we're all tired. Everybody's tired. And now this comes up. I'm sorry, people, but this is not right. So who's the person that reached out to you, Lori? What's that person's name?
Jamie Curley. She's the coordinator, but Rosie Kruger is the director, and she's the one I'll be dealing with as far as trying to figure out, as far as it's very interesting, and it's something that I will definitely bring up, is the summary is what I sent you. I printed out the law today, which is really only 7 pages, where the governor signed it on May 31st. And I'm having trouble picking out, I'm sure it's probably in there under some subsection, but I'm having trouble picking out where it talks about the exemption not being able to be accessed this year. So these are all things that I'm pushing back on, and I'll be reaching out to Rosie about. But it did seem pretty clear from Jamie that this was the path that needed to go forward.
Okay, now, and I appreciate that, Lori, obviously this isn't, we appreciate all of, your information, and I know you're up on this, but I definitely think Jamie and Rosie need, to be told that this is not the time to bring this up. This should come up, before budget season, or bring it up now, but for us to move into budget season, but not to move into late August, September, having a food program. That's just absurd. So I just think that's really poor management, quite frankly. Did you have something you wanted to add?
Yeah, well, Bridget and I had spoke this morning about an idea that she had, and I was hoping if she's willing, she could run it by you and see if this is even a potential option or not.
Yeah, it's kind of a pipe dream, but the only reason why I kind of thought about it was I know it's something that was done during the pandemic. Any schools that had remote learning and had a food program provided grocery gift cards to families so that kids were still getting free meals. I don't think that's obviously a long-term solution, but can we pitch the idea and negotiate with someone, plead and say, hey, we'll work on this, and give us time to fill out the grants, figure out how to work with our building, but in the meantime, maybe it's September and October, and November we're launching a food program. Can we provide the reimbursement rate per child to families as a way to kind of get us to that next step?
Gotcha, like the EBT cards is what you're talking about?
Yeah.
I am happy to explore that with Rosie.
Okay, thank you.
With the understanding, as Bridget said, that this was in the meantime while we get more time to figure out what we can do, because we do have some options aside from, I think, Leland and Gray. There's some other things we've been talking about, but I think to be fair, they got to give us a little bit of a leeway here, because obviously we have all these people here who are looking into it. We're not ignoring it. We're dealing with it, but be fair. Not you, Lori. Not you, Lori. Jamie and Rosie. I love you. Not you.
So there's just one other thing too that I wanted to add to that, and I've already told this to a couple different people. And I think it's already been referenced here with other people talking about it. The question being, do we just want to get the food here and be in compliance, or do we really want to be feeding the kids? We currently are serving pizza for free every Friday. There's 8 students in my class. Of those 8 students, only 2 of them take the pizza. The 6 students who don't, I asked them just yesterday, what's the deal? 5 of them said they love pizza, they refuse to eat that pizza.
Yeah.
So these kids are not gonna eat the food that comes up from Leland and Gray. I love, everyone wants to do that and it makes sense, and I get that that's the easiest thing to do. It's going to be a waste of everything, money, energy, food, time. I don't think that's a really great option to go down if we're really talking about feeding the kids. Of the 17 kids, I would be shocked if more than 5 of them would choose to eat that food. And if they're being made to eat it, they just won't eat. So that's all. I just want to explain that coming from what I see every day here at the school. They're not going to eat that.
What is it about the kids that they won't eat the food? Because they don't know where it comes from, or what?
They don't like it.
Little.
They don't like it.
Yep.
That's crazy.
I wish I had more information for you, Russ. I can just tell you, one kid says she sees little onions in the sauce. Another one says the sauce is too thick. Another one says it's too much tomatoes. Another one found a piece of a tomato in the sauce. Won't eat it. It's nuts. I don't know what to tell you. They won't eat the pizza.
Coming from a long-term food service
Yes,
professional.
I love that you're here for this conversation.
And when we cook for different demographics, and I'm not saying anything bad about the towns, West Townsend store, but they are cooking for a certain demographic which does not fit this school.
Right.
And I understand the statement of the pizza, and I get it. My kids don't. I have to tell them it's their favorite food. You love it, eat it. And I'm lying.
Yes.
But so like when we cook for groups of people, when I would cook for a group of senior citizens, we would add less salt and more other spices because most people could not have extra salt. So you take those demographics and look at it and you say, what's going on? So yes, that would be my problem with getting food from somewhere. I do think that the food that is provided through Leland and Gray, and because Nora went to preschool down there and she would get food every day and she loved it and she ate it every day. And I didn't send her with lunch and it was great. And she would come home and she'd be like, I had a chicken Caesar wrap and but those were those certain things. So my question there is, for food that is in this program, are there specific guidelines? Because I think I read about this, because it needs to fall within the child nutrition program. So with that, like the pizza may not fall within that child.
Oh, I'm sure
I mean
it
that
doesn't.
pizza,
Right,
because things are fortified nowadays
Well,
with
and you got to
certain
serve a
pizza
certain amount
shells.
of vegetables and other things.
Yes.
So that's not going to qualify.
So, and even though I did work for Sodexo, never in the food service line for schools, but they run all the major cafeterias in the world. I got to see a lot of those programs and read them and see the pricing on their chicken tenders. But I think, that comes into play whether you could, because it's a small amount of kids, and not putting it on you or anybody, but you could hire, somebody, to come and say, if there was a resource here that met the health requirements, to come cook, for 3 hours a day, really, for the amount of kids, and do the prep for breakfast in the morning,
In
which is
this
like a
truck
fruit
that you're
cup.
talking about.
In the truck, or,
Because you can't do it here in the
you
kitchen.
don't have space. You
We're
can't
not
blow out
allowed.
a wall and put a new building in. It's just
Which
not,
again,
it's
I'm
not
happy
feasible.
to keep doing it as I did a couple years ago.
No.
I don't want to get Bill in trouble either. I told him I'm happy to be arrested, but I don't want him to get arrested.
No, but I think something like that, the demographics of the food for the kids, it's like you're not feed them osso buco. I like it.
That's for us.
Yeah.
So I have something.
Yeah.
Like, I will say, my boys, they love the pizza in Brattleboro, but they're like, I don't know what they make that pizza with. It's not pizza.
Yeah,
So
yeah, sure.
it's made
It's
with a
fair.
lot of vegetables and natural stuff that kids don't like. They want sugar. But I was thinking about it today, and if we have to do breakfast and lunch, and we decide to go that Leland and Gray route, I mean, you're almost gonna have to hire 3 people because you're gonna need backup in case somebody gets sick and can't bring the meals up. And it's gonna be like a 6-hour a day job. And I was thinking, well, when they bring this up, is it coming in a throwaway container? So then, like, does that person have to stay and gather all the dishes and get that back to Leland and Gray to be cleaned? Like, how? And I love the lunch program. I've always said I want a lunch program. But I do think, spur of the moment, like, it's going to be difficult and expensive. And I don't know. I think Aaron's idea of a food truck, even if we can get through January,
Yeah.
to
Yeah, that's an interesting idea.
Yeah.
Oh, you want to take some of these
There's
questions?
a, yeah, sure, who's under this
Abby.
first? Abby,
And then Greg.
and then Greg.
Lori, the grant that you were talking about, does that, when does that open until? Is there a close date on it?
Yeah, there's definitely a close date, and I'm not sure. I don't have that information in front of me, but it's still open at this point, so.
Okay, and do we know, I mean, is it gonna close before our next meeting? Is it possible? Is that,
Why don't you let Greg go, and I can actually get online and look it up.
Thank you. All right,
okay, and I know Michael had some questions as well.
all right, let's go Greg and then Michael.
Well, I just wanted to tell you that upon like further inspecting, I mean, Wardsboro does the same thing, and they really don't have much for a kitchen there. They do it all with a warmer. So I think that, we could definitely, I think what we need to do is think about, okay, what's it going to take to get a 220 plug in there and proper refrigeration? And I think at that point, you're on your way to being able to meet the need. I mean, because you could do, a small convection oven type of thing for heating up breakfast sandwiches or whatever in the morning. And I just wanted to let you know that one thing we added for the West River elementaries is they do have a salad option, a fruit and yogurt parfait option every day, a sandwich option every day, and the hot option. So in that way, it does give your kids a little bit more of a choice. I push to have some of those things added as a daily thing to the menu, because I just think that a lot of times kids will have that one thing that's their fallback. If they're not sure about the hot, they know they like that fruit and yogurt, right? And so they'll always just get it. And, as Crystal said, the fruit and yogurt's got a little bit of sweetness to it. And so they are generally into that. But I've been surprised too with how few there have been at times in the schools too, where, you know what I mean, where you would expect maybe a big hike in it, and it hasn't been. But I know that there are every day. There are kids who are PB&J every day, or a turkey and cheese every day. So I think we can. I'm more into it than I maybe was in the fall, as far as like whether or not I think we can do it, and do it in a way that would be food being brought to your students that they would want to eat. I've talked to Mickey about it, of like, the last thing that we want to do is bring food up there that kids don't want, because, as we said, you look at the numbers, and the numbers are based on a half or 2/3 of your kids participating. And if that goes down to a third, like, that becomes a really big number that that the taxpayer's on the hook for. However, if we get into the breakfast after the bell program, in which every kid has access to breakfast, whether they eat it or not, that way you get to claim every kid for breakfast every day. Townsend does it. We've been pushing hard to get Newbrook to do it, because it's a great revenue for the food program, which will help on that back end of getting money back from your, on your claims. And I think something like that would help you guys, would multiply out pretty quickly to help you on that 6,000 to 10,000 number that you might be on the hook for. So, and usually, I don't know if Lori's found it yet or not, but usually the food service grant is a 50-50 match too. It's you've got to commit to half the price of whatever it is, which is, I mean, obviously we always take free money, but just didn't want you to think it was 100% free equipment. There would always be something on our side we got to put in the pot. So
And I apologize, it did close. I thought it was July, but it closed on June 1st. But if it's not all awarded, they'll sometimes redo it. So, but Greg is right. It's a 50-50 match up to 3,500. So.
But the grant closed.
It did. Yeah, they may reopen it if not all of the money was claimed, which does happen. Every year, I think it happens.
Ironically, the grant closed the day after he signed the bill.
Okay, so that's not cool. That needs to go to Jamie and Rosie also. That's ridiculous.
Well, yeah, that's why one of the reasons they reached out to us. I thought it was a July end date, but
I'm sorry. Yeah. I had Michael was up and then Bridget. Michael.
Well, I was going to say I would advocate that we sign on to any kind of grants we can, at least apply to any kind of grants we can reach out to, but unfortunately that ship sailed. The other thing I had was I was under the impression that there was some renovations going on in the supervisory union, and Greg was looking at maybe transferring some of that stuff to our school. I was kind of curious where that ended up or how that ended out. And I think that at this point, whether we bring the food in from the high school or we come up with an alternative option, we need like a baseline possibility of serving food, which is refrigeration in some way to heat it up. Even if we were to like cater, for instance, from the bottom of the hill, we still would need that baseline. And if we can figure out how to do it for relatively inexpensive, I think that would be a good thing. I don't think it's unheard of to come up with a fridge for a couple grand and a warming oven for also that similar amount, especially with all the restaurants in the valleys closing. Baba Louie's just selling everything they had going on the other day. So like there's definitely options out there. There's also the possibility of reaching out to distributors to get some equipment that way as well, without affecting the layout of the current multi-purpose room. I wouldn't advocate for a huge change in the multi-purpose room. I don't think that's the way to do it either. I think the food truck idea is very interesting. If we could figure out how to swing that in a reasonable way, that would be cool as well. And it would definitely open up some options. The other thing that I would throw out there is that regardless, at some point, somebody needs to be able to serve the food. And if our teachers or whoever is going to be serving that food, then I believe it would be appropriate for them to get certification such as ServSafe. You can get ServSafe certified for like $180 online. You don't have to go anywhere. You can do it from your house. That would be the manager's certification. I don't know what anybody else would cost. I haven't looked into that stuff really for years, but that was sort of a quick Google search I sort of looked up. But you could conceivably, for $300-400, ServSafe certify all three people inside the school, the two teachers, and the admin, who's probably, right there. And that would be pretty simple and an easy way to serve the food. Then it's just a matter of like transporting it and figuring out those logistics, which I think the neighborhood would probably be willing to help out. That's my piece. Thanks.
Great, thank you, Michael.
I just,
sorry. Bridget,
it's okay. Lori had her hand up. I didn't know if she was responding to Michael. If she wanted to go ahead. Okay. Yep. So you want to go to Lori?
Go ahead, Lori.
Sorry, I had muted myself. There are certain certifications that through the child nutrition program that yes, the teachers and Bridget could take trainings and be certified to serve the food, but it's all done through the child nutrition program.
Okay. Bridget.
So I think that the conversation is really great. Kind of goes to the point that we're trying to like hit home. It sounds like everyone's actually on the same page about this here in Windham, and how do we get outside of Windham to agree with us? I know that there were a lot of, as parents that had pushed for a food program, but I personally had talked to a few different people, Hunger Free Vermont, I talked to Greg at one point, and I think that it's just a lot of work for something that may or may not be successful. And if we can make it successful, like Aaron's food truck here is a really cool idea, because I think that it doesn't take up important real estate in the multi-purpose room, and you'd be hiring someone else to take care of all of those things, and it'd be hot food, not traveled food that got cold, all of that stuff. I think that if we have the time, we could do something really cool. I think rushing this between now and September is just a lot of money to throw at something that may or may not click with the kids. And I just feel like they're putting us in a really difficult situation. And again, the original plan was people were advocating to have free food for a much longer period of time, and it was agreed that they would do it for 1 year. And we pay so much in taxes here in Windham, and so much money leaves Windham, and we have holes in our multi-purpose room floor, and we're excited that we may get an art teacher next year. It really stings to think that we may be spending a ton of money, and if the following school year the food is not free. I personally will have 2 kids in school, and that would be $100 a week for food driven up from Leland and Gray. If you're not, so I think that whatever we can do to stress the fact that we just need time. Hunger Free Vermont did reach back out a couple times. They will not solve the problem, but they work with a lot of different schools and also help with grants. Keely was her name. She helps kind of write the grants and find the grants. And a lot of times they work with grocery store chains that like to give grants to schools. They have offered again to come see our school and see if they can brainstorm with us. That is something I am happy to pursue with them. I just think that, and they actually had a grant a few months back that was pretty significant, and they would have helped themselves with a match, because this is what they're advocating for. So I think they're a great, avenue for us if we have time to work with them.
Yeah. No, that's great. That's really good information. Greg, did you have your hand up?
Yeah, I just wanted to respond to Mike. There is an upright refrigerator, I think it is, at Newbrook. We could look to get it up there. I do apologize for not getting that. I would say that I've spent probably the last 3 months by 9 a.m. is just kind of put out the hottest fire every day. It's been, I think we went 3.5 weeks in the food service program without at least 2 people out. So it was the last handful of months has been just a survival of the fittest, and we're doing it. And so I apologize for not getting that up there yet, but it's just sitting in the gym at Newbrook. We can work on getting that up there. And like I said, I'll be up there tomorrow to look at the floor, so we can look at some of the power up there to see what's there. Not that I'm advocating for pushing and making it happen, but I think that we should, I'll kind of move forward as if we're going to try to make something happen and put some stuff in place. And if you all make any headway with kind of pushing back, then so be it. But I would hate to rely on pushing back and then end up really having to jam something forward that's not well thought out and well planned. So, and on another note too, we just hired a new food service manager for Leland and Gray, who I'm super, super excited about. A younger gentleman, really talented. It'll be interesting to talk to him too and see, what maybe he has for ideas. Once he gets started at the new fiscal year, we can tap into him as well. So.
Okay, great. Thank you, Greg. This refrigerator, you're saying it's ready to be picked up? Do you need a vehicle, or is there any way we can help with that?
Yeah, I mean, ideally with refrigeration and freezer stuff, you don't want to lay it down. So it's ideal to keep it upright. If somebody wanted to stop in there with a truck and a couple of straps and maybe a couple of strong human beings, that would be welcome. I'll let Pat know if somebody wanted to. If not, we'll probably do it at some point throughout the summer. And I just guarantee you exactly when. We got a crazy summer booked here.
Okay. Aaron's asking, is it on wheels?
If it is, they're not huge wheels. They're just a little cat.
Okay.
But the dolly right there, and it's at the Newbrook multi-purpose room, so it's probably 20 feet from a door. So
Okay.
it's
Just because probably anything that goes in that room should be on wheels for you.
Yes, that would make
Okay.
sense.
Yeah, yep, oh, sorry, Crystal.
So I will say, you know, both my boys went to Townsend. Jax loved that salad bar, like that was his life. Oliver loved the hot foods. So they did eat every day. But I would be concerned if we move forward with this. Like, I don't think Mickey and Natalie should be serving the meals. Like,
Yeah.
I'm gonna be honest, I have a big problem with that. I think
No, it's a
Or
lot
they
to
could
ask.
pass out food, but they shouldn't be.
No, absolutely,
Cooking.
I
But
totally
it's
agree
not
with you.
just that. It's you have to do a cleanup, and it's a process. So our kids are going to lose on education to have some yogurt and fruit.
Yep.
So I definitely won't support the teachers doing this.
Do more with less.
I think if we're going to push forward with this, like,
Yeah,
we need a lunch lady.
well, as
You know what I
Bridget's-
mean?
As Bridget said, we send a lot of taxes. What, for every dollar, we spend, we raise $1. So if, Lori, if, Jamie and Rosie want to let us go without that, for every dollar we spend, we don't spend another $1, then yeah, we can totally hire somebody to do food, and that's really reasonable. They need to understand that. So and Greg, I agree with you. I'm not looking just to strictly push back. We just need some more time. And as far as the fridge, I have a truck. So I actually even have a ramp that I think would fit. I have an 8-foot bed truck for a ramp to get it up there. So if you're looking for somebody, I'm sure I could get people together to do that.
You just let me know when, and I can always be there to help load and even follow you up to offload. I just don't always have time to coordinate the people, you know what I mean, around it all. And that.
No, absolutely. Okay, I'll look into that.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think, Crystal, I think you're spot on. I mean, it needs to be an employee that I think that there's a lot of things that you need to look at if you include it in your staff is right. I mean, I'm sure Mickey doesn't know what one of these looks like, but he's supposed to have planning time and things like that. So, so, we want to be cognizant of things like that. And again, it's not, I think it wouldn't be good long-term planning to have it include the staff, but if we have our own person, that's something that's sustainable. And to let you know, if someone's out, that's usually when I end up delivering food, because that's what I did when other people were out. So I'm the backup plan. We have one. It's not ideal.
Thank you, Greg. I see, Bill, you have your hand up.
Yes, Beth, I'm wondering if it might make a lot of sense to, since everybody is here, to schedule a meeting that would happen after Lori hears from Rosie, so that we could have the full context of what is the parameters for making a decision. Lori can communicate what has been shared here tonight, and you, Beth, can follow up with Carolyn. She still is the representative until December 31st.
Yes.
So I think that is a powerful ally to push from that angle. But I think that at this point, probably the best thing to do is to find a time in like 10 days or 2 weeks or whenever Lori thinks she might be able to get information back, so that we can regather and then have a really fruitful conversation about what are the true paths forward.
Okay, that sounds fine.
He's so good at that. It's unreal.
Scheduling another meeting? He's really,
just like-
really good at it. Yes, but I was looking at August as our next meeting, but no. All right, Lori, does that sound okay? You want to let us know when to schedule another meeting?
I will get an email off tomorrow to start the conversation. I won't wait to hear how they're going to do it. I will express your concerns. and maybe some of your ideas I'll throw out there. And as soon as I hear back, then I'll let you know. I would say that I'll probably hear back by the end of the week. So you could probably schedule something for beginning of July.
Okay, great, yeah.
4th.
Yeah, right. Yeah, at noon. Or maybe right when the fireworks start. So yes, and please just relay that we are completely on board. We've been having this discussion for a couple of years now, but to throw it out like this is just, yeah, I think incredibly unfair, and could, yeah, potentially just have a really poor outcome for us. So.
I will convey your feelings.
All right, thank you.
And Lori, if you could also, if there's any additional grants that they're aware of that are open, also would that would be very appreciated information. Thank you.
You got it.
Great. Is there anything else regarding the food I guess not, because we're just gonna wait to hear from Lori. Yep.
I would go ahead and make sure that you and Russ and Abby could all schedule a meeting for that week after the 4th of July, so that you locked something down so that everybody could attend, whether it's the 6th, the 7th, or the 8th, something like that.
So the 4th falls on a Monday?
Yeah.
So I guess we'll just keep it a regular Tuesday. Does that sound reasonable?
Like Tuesday, the 5th,
The 5th?
at 6 o'clock.
Sure. Abby, Russ?
I'm looking at my husband. That's my mother-in-law's birthday. So,
Okay.
maybe for me.
Russ?
Well, as long as it's on Zoom, I can.
Okay, yeah, we can make that. What about you? Is that?
I gotta be there?
Oh,
Yes,
no.
I'll be there.
No. Oh, anybody else here? I mean, you guys have all
We
been.
want Aaron there.
You'll be here? Yeah, absolutely.
Foodie.
What is July? Does that work?
My Safe certification is still active until 2025.
Perfect. All right, there's our lunch lady.
Does July? Does that work for you, Erin? July 5th?
I think so.
If you're around, we'll do it on Zoom. So 6 o'clock, July 5th. Lori, is
If
something.
they're all gonna be on Zoom, we could all come to your house. How about that?
Sure.
Then we can really enjoy the meeting.
So, Lori, unless we hear from you, that's the date we'll go with, July 5th, 6 o'clock?
Yeah.
Okay, July
Sounds
5th at 6 p.m. All right, great. All right, moving on to executive session. Do we need one?
We do not.
Great. So do we want to, so we're not going to meet in July as a regular, we'll do that meeting, just the food service. And then we'll do our regular meeting again in August.
Sounds fantastic.
Before school starts. Yeah. That's what we like to do.
So what's that gonna be, the 2nd, the 16th?
I don't know what date that is.
16th.
August 16th. Okay, thank you, everybody. We're gonna adjourn at 7:26 unless somebody has something they really want to share. Okay, thank you.